All right. So, welcome to today's hot seat discussion, where we are bringing you insights to answer the question of what's working now, coming directly from Fitness Revolution coaching partners. I'm your host, Justin Hanover, and I've been in the industry since 2008 and now a success coach with Fitness Revolution, committed to helping gym owners build the business they want. A couple things before we dive into today's hot seat discussion. I'm going to obviously quickly introduce our guest, and then I also want to let you know ahead of time that I will be reaching out after this hot seat interview to invite you to join our Business Mastery Facebook group. So be on the lookout for that. So now for today's guest. Today I have the pleasure of talking with Jake. Jake is 35 years old and lives in Richmond, Virginia. He had a unique path coming into the fitness world as he didn't have any education in the fitness space prior to opening his gym. He did, however, always have a passion for working out and being able to share that experience with his friends. While in college, he was exploring more effective ways to work out, and that is when he and a couple of his roommates came across CrossFit and knew that was it for him. He opened RVA Performance Training back in 2007 from humble beginnings at parks and other outdoor spaces, and he quickly jumped to 1,000 square foot indoor space. That was also at the time he realized he needed to transition from treating the business as a hobby to a real business. So he began buying out his business partners at that time and has been relying on the business for his sole income since 2010. Now his business is at a 15,000 square foot facility with 400 plus members, 5 full-time staff, and multiple part-time. Outside of his business, he has been training, competing in strongman from 2008 to 2013, and went to nationals twice, which led him to coaching Olympic weightlifters along with athletes from beginner to national levels. Jake, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to spend a little bit with us, sharing your journey and insights.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. So let's start with just quickly giving an overview perspective of what the landscape looked like for you right prior to COVID happening, just so we have an understanding of like kind of where you were and how you grew through this past year.
Yeah. Frankly, things were pretty amazing for us right before COVID. We've, again, been in business for a long time, and things have always gone in a positive direction, been going pretty well. But I really felt like those 6 months before COVID, it was like everything was just firing on all cylinders. We were business was it was going great. It was really kind of panning out how I was looking forward to. So really the big picture there was we had a great facility. So 15,000 square feet. We have multiple successful programs within that facility. So we have we call our performance program, which is more high intensity conditioning, barbell work, maybe some advanced gymnastics, a boot camp style class we call RVA Fit, and then our weightlifting program, which is where I do most of our coaching, or my coaching, which is called RVA Barbell. All the programs were doing great. Our staff was, again, really well. We had to have a great general manager with everybody really knowing what their roles were and having a very clear picture of what they needed to do, and we're executing it well. And really, like, our membership was doing great. I mean, biggest it ever been. Profit margins were very, very solid. Making good money. And so it just felt like all the little pieces that needed to happen to like us making good money and like me living the lifestyle I wanted, felt like it finally come together at the same time, and it was, again, a long time coming. So it was pretty jarring to go from really our best, 6 months ever, and really feeling like I had everything locked down to, again, shutting down, was it late March last year.
Wow. Okay. And just out of curiosity, with your space being 15,000, is that all one open room, or like just out of curiosity, what's the layout look like for your space?
Yeah. No, it's actually it's an old building, and so it's broken up a little bit, but essentially it's two 5,000 square foot training spaces, and then there's about 5,000 square feet that ends up being bathrooms, offices, lobby, locker room, all that. So our performance program, which is our biggest program, that occupies a single open 5,000 square foot space, and then our barbell RVA fit and like kind of some open gym space takes up another 5,000 square foot area.
Okay. All right. I was just curious if that kind of paint the picture for people what your space is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's not just I've been in gyms that are like 20,000 square feet and just wide.
Yeah, open. Yeah.
And it actually works really well for us because any like 5:30 on a Monday, I might have all three programs going at the same time, and a handful of people doing some things on their own, and I can, it's a little bit hairy sometimes, but the space allows us to do all those things at the same time without too much trouble.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. So before we dive into some specifics and some areas that you've been growing in over the past year, what were some of the major changes that hit your business, like at the start of COVID, like that you said you were firing on all cylinders?
Yeah.
So then what adjustments were made?
Yeah. So when we actually made the decision, probably could have been more than a week before we were forced to shut down. We decided it was best for us to go ahead and shut down. Felt like we were doing our part. Didn't really know what to expect in terms of spread of the virus and sort of like what our risk was, for us and like my staff, my members, everything. So we shut down a little bit early, and knew right off the bat that I wanted to keep my full-time staff here employed and like pay them. That was really one of the highest priorities. But to do that at the time, I think we had 4 full-timers at that point. But at that point, though, I knew like we needed a fair amount of money to keep these folks employed at like or around their current level. So to do that, we really needed to keep all of our members, or not all of them, but most. Something like 80%, just to make all the numbers work out well. So I knew right off the bat that we were closed, so I had to figure out how to offer a service that I like convey the same value that they were already paying. I didn't really want to just sort of live off of the goodwill of the members who are still to continue paying their membership when we were closed, just because I wanted to see us reopen again one day. It was important to me to be able to, again, give all our members a good, high quality service. So we reformatted our membership options and our offerings to, and like most other people, switched online. So that looked like lots and lots of Zoom classes. I had to get really good at that really quick. So at levels, I think we're doing 3, 4. I think it was 4 classes per day over Zoom. We had a couple different class formats, and part of it also, like I didn't think just Zoom classes alone really conveyed all that value that we were expecting folks to pay. So we increased the level of contact and interaction between our coaches and our members. So all our full-time coaches have a portion of our membership base assigned to them, like that is their coach. Regular like accountability checks, issues, things like that. And so we really stepped it up to almost like a weekly check-in, monthly Zoom floor like coaching calls. So just a time where they would sit down to talk about goals, what they're working on, and how their coach can help them. So we built a lot of personal interaction there to try to convey that value, which again is our top membership was $175 at the time. So we wanted to make sure we could, again, give a good service to folks. So switched online. Our part-time staff, it wasn't a huge deal. They all had other jobs and things, and but for our full-timers, they were able to stay here and really like hang out and talk to clients and run Zoom classes. Some of them got some online training clients and whatnot. So that was like the first chunk, was just like getting our basic service delivery figured out.
Yeah.
After that, the other thing was like contending with not just normal monthly churn, like folks we would lose to moving or whatever, life.
Yeah.
But then with, we did have a good number, maybe about 15% pause their memberships, which I think is fantastic. Like, I'm happy that so many folks stayed here and active, but a bunch of folks did pause their memberships. And then, of course, we just lost some people too. So again, just to make the numbers work, we realized it wasn't feasible just to like keep the folks we had as well as possible, but then needed to find how to grow. And that the second main challenge was like how to market and sell a program that was totally new to us. I can talk forever. So yeah, you got questions?
Yeah. No, I think that was really good. I think that really gave us, well, out of curiosity, was that first chunk, like, were you successful?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the first part in terms of like our service delivery, I feel great about. Like, it was certainly a challenging time, and not everybody wanted to train online, but it worked out to the point where we were able to keep enough of our members to survive and continue on. And then, yeah, the bigger challenge for us was, again, that the sales and marketing aspect. So that's something even I'm still working on now actively. We do still have our online program, even though we've been reopened since last August. Fully, not fully, but like with restrictions. But yeah, we're still rolling with our online program.
Okay, no, excellent. That kind of was a good painting the picture for us. And actually, speaking of marketing, that's kind of was the next area I wanted to kind of dive into with you, because I obviously understand through working with your FR coach, you have been able to like excel in that area and become more comfortable in the marketing role and develop like a clear plan around that.
Yeah.
So maybe you can shed some light on what your marketing process looks like now.
Yeah. So the thing with marketing for us, in terms of having worked with a few years now, was just being a little more, I'll say, intentional with our marketing. So it was, laying out a plan for, I do it by quarter, generally, and then not just executing on that plan and executing the plan in like various spaces, not just like doing all sort of in-person marketing or online or something, but just having, spreading out my marketing through various channels, and then executing it, but like finally like measuring it. And I think that was one of the bigger things that we would run into in the past is, not measuring the results of our marketing efforts well enough, and then not following up on that. So like, we would have, times we ran an event at the gym called a burpees and brunch. Fantastic. Get like 150 people out at the gym, 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning to like work out and, drink mimosas and eat pancakes and stuff. It's a great time, right? Sounds fun. We did a few of them and we're like, oh, these are great, and it was great. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was good for the community and stuff, but we really didn't have any real prospects from it, or very, very few, and some of that could have been our lead follow-up process, or our prospect follow-up processes at the time. Also, maybe that just wasn't the right event at the right time, with the right message to actually get folks a step closer to joining us. So it was like that also, opened my eyes a little bit working with FR, just like not just doing things, but also taking the time to measure what you're doing to make sure it's actually helping you get closer to where you want to be.
I think that's a good point that you're saying there of like, I think so many business owners can get so caught up in just, like you said, just doing things, and it feels like you're having an impact because our feelings can obviously misconstrue reality sometimes. And when you actually have like facts, like you said, of tracking something and actually seeing what the outcome of it, then you really know what the effect of that action was. But I would assume that obviously, I mean, having such a great turnout for like your brunch workouts and stuff like that, it makes you feel like, wow, like this is doing something. But in reality, like you said, I'm sure in some aspects, obviously it was like enhancing the community and stuff like that. But there also is another part where you need to make sure that you're growing your membership base too.
Yeah.
And if how much effort, time, money you're putting into that, it isn't making sense on the back end, then you obviously you need to be aware of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some of those things that, events like that would be very, very time consuming and
Mm,
just take a lot of effort. So it's like understanding the purpose ahead of time, the goal, and then making sure it's meeting that, whatever that goal or not. And then like, again, either revamping it or just choosing to do something entirely different. So that's been super helpful for us. And then I will say again, just having a good plan, um, sometimes in areas I wouldn't have usually considered. And we always have done various like marketing activities, like little events or referral challenges, things like that. But really laying it all out on like order, knowing what actions it was going to take to execute on those plans, and then like having weekly, or more than weekly sometimes, like accountability checks and processes to make sure everyone's executing what they need to. That's been huge. And that's, I mean, some of those things I feel like I've only really nailed down post quarantine, where I like, we, for a long time, like we were the first CrossFit gym in town. And we've been around for a long time and have like a pretty solid name locally. So many of our prospects were just organic Google SEO, type. That's how they're getting to us. They would look for a gym near me, CrossFit gym near me, something like that on Google, make it to our website. I would capture their information in some way. They would contact us. We'd start talking. So, I would get just 150 leads a month, basically doing nothing, and so that's one of the things for us was that a lot of that dropped off during COVID. I wasn't just getting that local search as much. People just weren't looking for it, and I needed to still bring in a certain amount of people. We also dropped our CrossFit affiliation last year as well. So that was another thing. Like I lost a lot of search traffic that way. So for us, it was had to be much more intentional with our marketing because I had to generate more leads, and our sales process feel really good about, but it was just like was not getting the leads into the pipeline to actually have that opportunity to convert.
So then, do you feel like having a more cohesive plan where everything was kind of intertwining and leading to the same end result, and being able to plan out in advance helped you do that?
Yeah, for sure it has. And I mean, there's still plenty of times when I'll try something and it won't work nearly as well as I'd liked. But it is, there's a certain sort of feeling of empowerment, just knowing that you do have a plan and that if it doesn't work, you're going to try something else or you're going to adjust it,
I was just going to say that, like, how did the mindset for you feel differently? Because I know a lot of people are in this position where they don't plan out maybe even a week ahead, and they're always kind of like in this fight or flight mode of like, okay, what can we do next, type of thing.
It seems much more, when you don't have a plan, it just all seems more mysterious. Like a bunch of people come in one week, but then they don't the following, or it's just not there's nothing to count on. There's no consistency. And again, we've had again, the gym has grown for a long time, over many years, but it's been certain times where it's like grown really well and certain times it hasn't. So, it still happens. We still have good and bad months, but at least there's sort of numbers we can manipulate and there's things we have some control over. So that when things aren't going well, one, we can try to preempt the bad months, but when things aren't going well, we have like certain actions we can take to try to improve whatever like the metrics we need to are.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you can make that informed decision, because again, going back to, you're tracking things. And you understand. Were there any specific metrics that you weren't tracking before that you are now?
We really didn't track the number of leads or really track our leads at all. So I would say before working with FR, it was really, we didn't consider anyone. We really didn't have leads. We had prospects. We had, the only time we really paid attention to folks were once they went to our website, signed up for, we do intro sessions. So like one-on-one, coach athlete sort of session. And it's part of the sales process, but we take them around the gym, talk about their goals, what they're looking for, figure out which program is best for them. So we really only tracked people once they got to that point. But there's many, many steps that were probably happening for those people before they actually sat down on my website and booked a call or scheduled a session. And had no way before of tracking those people or even like collecting those people's information. So that would be one of the bigger things, is really, again, tracking the leads coming in, making sure we had ways of bringing leads prior to just that intro process. And yeah, kind of seeing how well they converted and where they're coming from, things like that.
Yeah. Okay. No, I love that. So before I want to next transition into like the sales area. But I want to see if maybe real quick we can round out the marketing topic of discussion with maybe like what tactical adjustments you made in your marketing to get you back in the growth trajectory.
Gosh. So one of the things I've done, and it's still sort of like to be determined as far as like how well or will work long term, but I'm much more consistent now and active with our online marketing. So I growing good email list for years, but never really put it to use. At this point, I have 3,000 to 4,000 folks on the mailing list, and those are pretty active subscribers as well. But again, I didn't do anything with it. So now I'm doing weekly emails at least, and occasional like extra series on top of that to promote like a certain event or FEO or something like that. I have also structured out all of our like my Instagram posts are planned out for the quarter, most of them at least. All like written, scheduled, all of that, and tie into the emails going out. Start doing weekly YouTube videos, and I'm trying to build all this sort of like this ecosystem of these interactive pieces of content all online, but then also tracking like what like I just even recently past month or two started tracking like how many folks are clicking on my Instagram bio and like on the intro link in my Instagram bio, because like I've been posting an Instagram since it came out pretty much, and I don't have a huge following there, but I never really tracked that. So it was more like, oh, am I getting a bunch of likes? But likes really have so little to do with what is it doing for my business, it's cool to make a post that obviously resonates with people and get hundreds of likes, which for us is a good thing. But really, I realized like I need to say like, well, is my account growing? And then even more importantly, like, are people actually clicking on it? Like same thing with I feel like it's important to nurture my mailing list and to like be putting out content there routinely, but tracking like how many of those people are then clicking down to sign up for intro. It's all pretty clear path. Like once you get past a certain point, it's like it's really like for us the biggest way to actually get started at the gym. So yes, was that I guess helpful or paint a good picture there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think like you said, the biggest thing with marketing, like there's no one right way or like right way that's going to work for everyone, but you won't know what's working if you don't track things.
Yeah. And some of this stuff, like, the YouTube's actually our biggest, we have our biggest following on YouTube. So that's one of the things I'm trying now with our online marketing, like marketing our online service. It's really nice having something that's not geographically limited, or it's scalable. But the challenge is like we're very, very small fish in this huge pond of people offering some sort of online training. So that's one of our sort of long plays right now, is like building up content about training at home on our YouTube channel, and then trying to get leads through there, and so that's like, I don't know if it's gonna work yet, but that's sort of where we're pushing right now and focusing some energy on.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. So moving into like the sales part of it now, and I know I'm curious to learn a little more about like your follow-up process,
Mhm.
and like how that has been working for you, especially over this past year. Because I know that was a big, one of the things you pointed out was a big adjustment for you, making sure that you actually were doing that.
Yeah.
So like maybe kind of shed some light on like what is your follow-up process, and like I said, like the impact that it's had on your business.
Yeah. So one thing I have noticed over the past, since we've reopened, is that the sales process just has looked a little different. And because I think people's attitudes are just a little bit different right now in terms of um, their risk aversion and like how much they want to commit to something. And so there's been some challenges there. So what we've noticed is that we're having, my typically pre-COVID, our close percentage for an intro. I mean, we set our low numbers at 80%. Like that's what we always wanted to get over, and we're successful there. But we would have some of our salespeople, which are also our full-time coaches, close. Have months where they would close at 100% or like 90+%. So we were used to this really like lockdown sales process in terms of like what actually happened in person during that 1 hour intro. We're used to folks signing up on the spot, like 90+% of the time, a lot of time. So what we found is it's been taking more steps lately. We found that it has been people aren't, we only have at this point unlimited 12-month memberships. I have one membership option, like you come like year in or year out kind of thing, which for a lot of people is a big challenge. So we find a lot of folks come in, we do our normal sales discussion, which is very like focused on helping the prospect out and like figuring out what the best options are for them, but really just not ready to sign up on the spot. So we have just like tracking, like making sure that once we got a maybe or a no or a not yet during that intro, it was like having keeping track of everyone who was in that pile of people, and then finding ways to continue to engage with them. And a lot of folks would eventually come back. So one of our big things, and it's simple, but it's super effective, is like one, have a next step. So like when you get done, you get to the end of that session, they're like, you know what, X, Y, and Z reasons, I'm just not ready to sign up today, not happening, but I'm interested. What you can't do is just like let them roll out the door and be like, cool, well, I'll talk to you again sometime. Nice meeting you. What we do, and what I've been taught to do, is like their calendar and be like, okay, well, it sounds like you need a little time to think about it. I'm going to call you next Tuesday at 2:00. I'm going to send you a Google Calendar invite. I'm going to do it right now if you want to go ahead and accept it on your phone, right? And it sounds maybe like, I won't say pushy, but it is giving you, like, it's setting an expectation for them. It's not just like, you said you want to achieve these goals. Like, we have laid out the plan, and like, really, like, it sounds like this is the best solution for you. So we're going to make sure we're going to talk again about this to see if we can kind of like get steps down and like iron out whatever solutions you need. Yeah, always getting in their calendar, always having a next step. Sometimes that next step for us has been like, we didn't used to do a lot of free trial classes. Now we're doing more of those. So a lot of times folks will come in, sit with us for an hour, have a great discussion, but just want to like see what it feels like and looks like, and meet the coaches and meet the other members. So for some people, it's been like coming in for a couple classes afterwards. Some of our prospects, it has been just like any time we have like an event, like we haven't done a burpees and brunch in a while, but let's say we had one, it would be, okay, like who are all the people who have given you like a not yet over the last month, 2 months, quarter, whatever it might be, and saying, like, text, email, call those people and say, hey, I'm having this free event at the gym, come on out. And it just shows like, I mean, some people need touch points to finally decide they're going to sign. And I get it, it's a big decision. So it's just making sure that we get those 10 touch points in eventually, and that we're like, showing people we care. Like, oh, hey, you said you really wanted to work on this. Well, here's a resource for you, that you might find helpful, or here's this event and it's free. Just like, hey, we know what their goals are, even if they're not a member yet, we know how to help them, and just like keeping that relationship open and alive.
Yeah.
Point where they're, either decide they do want to be a part, or they're like, please stop contacting me, not, and again, like we're never pushy. We're laid back, honestly, but we keep that communication going as long as we can.
Well, I think what I really like a lot about what I'm hearing in your approach with what you're doing with your following up is that you're not just following up, but you're following up with a purpose and a reason behind it.
Yeah.
Whether it's inviting them to something or giving them something of value that you feel specifically would help them, like that doesn't get annoying. Like it's like you're leading with value,
Yeah.
and I mean, unless that person's having a really bad day, like for the most part, they're going to be welcome to obviously some type of help, or an invite to go and do something.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important part for people to pick out there, that it's not just like, you don't just send a message like, hey, are you ready to do this yet? Like,
I mean, and like my coaches are, I mean, and I'll say salespeople sometime, but really they're coaches with sales responsibilities. They're not salespeople, and they didn't get into this to sell, but like we both know that is a sort of, depending on how you structure your business, like someone's got to be doing the selling.
Yeah.
It is a necessary part. So like they've had to like learn some like sales skills, and we put a lot of focus in there, but they're still not going to do stuff that feels gross to them, like that they don't feel comfortable with. And so, and I get it, just like kind of cold calling an old prospect and be like, hey, you ready to come back into the gym? Like you're ready to sign up? Like that feels gross for a lot of people. And I mean, I'm sure for some people that works great, or they're totally comfortable with it. But for us, again, it does feel a lot better to be like, hey, we have this thing coming up that, again, might have, like, offer you value. And that makes it a lot of a much easier sort of interaction, I'd say.
And so do you basically handle the same approach because that was, I mean, pretty much what you explained for people that have come in, and done something, and how you follow up with them from there. But
Yeah.
like, say, like, what about people that either like dropped off membership or something like that, and say it's like 6 months, a year out from when they were last in the facility?
Yeah.
How would you re-engage that type of person?
Yeah, one of the things we started a couple of years ago is really just to make sure we had all the, it's kind of granular here, but like all the reports and everything built out. We use Zen Planner, so that we could, each coach, again, they have a group of members assigned to them, average 100. But we built out the reports and created a weekly process where we could see everyone who hasn't been in a while, who's still a member, anyone who's expiring, anyone whose birthday is coming up. And we would also kind of list out like alumni and have some touch points with them. I think that was it for the most part. But we had a system where really no one could just kind of drop off the face of the earth without hearing from us at least times.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, again, that's been like built around like offering value, like, hey, like, how can I get you back in the gym so you can start working again on these goals that you told me were important to you? And like, here's solutions, here's something to be good for you, whatever. And then for, alumni, it's the same kind of thing, just like keeping the relationship alive. And a lot of times it would just be not like we would send them a postcard, just like, hey, like, miss you, like, hope you're doing great. And not like, can't like wait for you to come back in the gym again, and so just little things like a postcard. I mean, I think something physical goes a long ways. It's easy to send a text like, oh, they get something in the mail, they'll put it on their fridge, and they'll think about you that,
Yeah.
now and then. So little like that, just having a process though, so like folks didn't slip through the cracks. And I mean, we've even had like little campaigns like for like a quarter, where like every coach each week will contact 5 alumni, and we'll just push through it so that really we can just talk to everybody who maybe has been a member, or like dropped or canceled their membership within last year, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. No, I love that. And because again, like you're you're leading with an approach that like makes it like a human interaction first, and not like them getting a spammy automated bot response or something
Yeah.
after like, oh, it's been a year and it kicks them this message, and then you hope that they are in a place where they want to respond to it. So I think that's really important. I think that's shown that over, especially over this past year, even more so with I think it's been even more hyper competitive in the sense of all the at home stuff that has come out through this process, and every other like area that we're competing with. uh you still can't compete with that personal touch factor,
Yeah, for sure.
and being able to be specific with your reach outs, based on, like I said, like being able to quote what they said they wanted to do,
Yeah.
like that's invaluable. I mean, that creates a deeper connection. So I think that's fantastic that's the way that you guys operate with that. So obviously, like speaking on like your team and everything, like, and you've been able to develop like a substantially like sizable business. uh Obviously that's had to have an effect on you as a leader. So I was curious, like, with like, how have you developed as a leader over this past year with being able to keep your business like in sync and moving
Yeah.
forward?
No, I mean, and it's certainly been challenging. When you take out that in-person interaction, everything's like you lose an aspect of communication when you're just seeing folks, over video or like email and text and whatnot. So, um, you know, we so often just relied on just our daily interaction, just like having a good time in the gym for like ironing out a lot of things and just making things go smoothly, or just, like just having little, just again, there's like a kind of water cooler sort of talks, we don't have a water cooler, but
Yeah.
like just those interactions were super helpful for us. But we certainly lost a lot of that. Some of our employees were like in the gym, some even during quarantine, so they could run online classes, but some were almost exclusively at home. Like one of my guys, he set up basically turned one of his rooms into like an online studio. I mean, we have lights and a camera and all that stuff set up, so he was running classes from his house, and does. And I mean, he's in the gym now, but he'll still he'll run our noon online class from his, extra bedroom. So it's, that was a challenging thing for us, is like, I think losing a lot of that connection there. So I had to, I mean, the other thing, there was just so much influx at the business, where all our good processes and stuff, a lot of that stuff kind of went out the window because we just weren't, our day-to-day looked totally different. And so what I found, the challenge was so many things needed to happen so fast. I needed to make so many decisions that I went from really being at the top and just sort of directing from there, and then everything just kind of executing under me for the most part, to like operating like 2 or 3 levels down, it felt, where I was, getting in the trenches and having to just do a lot, as far as like executing aspects of our marketing, creating new offers, like interacting with members, and really just figuring out, again, basic service delivery, which we hadn't had to dig into as much for a long time. So leadership challenge for me, because then once things kind of got going a little bit, I realized, instead of having great role clarity with all my managers and like my role well defined, and like everyone sort of, had delegation on my side, like I was just in the middle of everything, at one point during quarantine and all that. So so I had to like learn and kind of revisit, like, what is the structure of my business? Everything looks totally different. But what is the structure? Who's responsible for what? What do those responsibilities look like? What is your scope? And because, it's creating issues. Like, I mean, folks like butting heads, or like having expectations of folks that weren't getting met, or maybe like 2 people trying to do the same thing. We went from basically having very few of those issues to like a lot of them, just because so much was changing so fast. We still had a relatively large business. I mean, like, for our kind of gym, I'll say. So that was a big one for me, is really, as a leader, like relearning how to delegate, relearning how to define folks' roles and stuff, and then just learning how to communicate without all that face-to-face interaction.
No, I love that. And I think that's obviously a testament to you as a leader of being able to acknowledge that and realize that like what you were doing up until this point isn't necessarily relevant. and you got to be almost like you said, like humble and willing to kind of remove that and get in the trenches and rebuild this process moving forward. So that is a huge process of being a leader. So that's not always about you being necessarily seen as on the top. It's like you need to be in the mix sometimes and like working with everyone and bringing everyone together to like obviously establish a new way of doing things.
So it's like I had to get in the mix for a while, but then that was a problem. So I had to get back out, and like figure out how to get myself back out of it and like return to that position. So like one of the things I run into is like I was so in the middle of things that it became very challenging to make big decisions or even think big picture, and so that's what I was used to doing, spending most of my time being able to sort of muse over the larger decisions in the gym. And suddenly, it was almost paralyzing to make some of these bigger decisions because so much of my time and energy was spent like in the trenches. So that was kind of the thing for me, is realizing like it was time to sort of get back out, reestablish certain processes and roles and scope, and then so I could try to steer things a little bit better.
And that really is the role of you being the vision of the business, and like realize you have to have that outside awareness that you can't get caught up in the day-to-day all the time, because obviously that would really hinder the growth of your business. So I think that's a fantastic point, that it's like if you're someone listening to this that it is feeling that way, then just like obviously Jake experienced, then there's probably a sign that you need to be able to step back out of that, because like that shouldn't be something that you're always operating from. And then looking to obviously get in the right path. So I appreciate like kind of opening up and sharing on that. Before we wrap up, I do want to just kind of like ending with like kind of like getting your perspective on mentorship. Like obviously I understand that you value mentorship, but I'd want to let you kind of like speak to those that maybe haven't been experiencing it or haven't ever used a mentor, especially over this past year. Like how do you feel like this past year for yourself would have been had you not had mentorship with Fitness Revolution?
Yeah, so for as long as I can remember, even prior to Fitness Revolution, had folks in my life that were mentors for me. Usually like other business owners, other coaches who I like develop good relationships with. So I sort of had like practice in receiving mentorship, and it was just always like a big part of my thought process. Like when I would go to make a big decision in the business, or just like thinking about some changes or something, like I was very used to having folks to go to for like, not to tell me what to do or how to do it, but just be a sounding board, and really like folks who had either been where I was or had like helped other folks through what I was going through. So, with Fitness Revolution, it has been good to like have that, like, honestly, that has been the most valuable thing to me, is really just like when there is something going on having an issue with an employee, or looking to make some change to the structure of my business, just being able to shoot a text or talk about it at our next coaching call, whatever it may be, like having someone there who has experience, who can bounce ideas off, like we can, bounce ideas off each other. That's done a lot for me, especially with how frustrating things have been over the past year. Even just voicing those frustrations and knowing other folks are going through it, and then, like setting some concrete ways to like try to address them. It doesn't mean things aren't challenging, but it's nice knowing someone's in your corner and that they are there to support you and guide you. So it has been it's certainly a valuable thing for me.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think that's such an undervalued thing, because it's not necessarily something you can measure in a return, but it's such a valuable piece of mentorship, is being able to have a sounding board and be able to talk to someone that fully gets what you're going through. Doesn't even mean that you may not necessarily even be looking for an answer. Sometimes it's just nice to just talk it out and get what was in your head, and be able to express that openly without judgment.
Yeah, for sure.
I think is a huge thing. But I think that's a fantastic place to wrap up this conversation. And obviously, I just want to thank you again so much, Jake, for taking the time out of your day to spend with us, giving back to the community, because that's really what the point of these are, is really helping everybody win. And really appreciate obviously everything that you shared with us today. And I'm sure everyone watching this will agree with me how beneficial this time has been, being able to hear your journey and insights. And those watching, don't forget, I'll be reaching out to make sure that you get invited to join our Business Mastery Facebook group. So please be on the lookout for that email as well. And that's it for today's Hot Seat interview. Jake, thank you so much again. It's truly been a pleasure. And I will see you guys on the next Hot Seat.
Great. Thank you so much.